Hey everybody, welcome into the Good Buddies Anime Review. It is our first episode like this. This is our first of the switch from the traditional podcast that we've been doing over the last year. We're pretty excited about it, and we're going to go over Made in Abyss this week. Now, if you want a really thorough, in-depth dive, there is one on the channel. Or whatever audio site you're on, you'll be able to find one there for Made in Abyss. But
it's gonna be a little shorter.
Yeah, we thought this would be a good entry point for us to really fill it out and get this format down. So we appreciate you hanging out with us, and it allows to give us a more visual YouTube approach to it.
Who am I talking to right now?
Because we get a lot of... We're talking to the Good Buddies.
But who are you?
And I'm your good buddy Roger.
And I'm your good buddy Brandon.
And that's your good buddy Brandon over there. Yeah, man, we'll fill this little intro out, but
we're making it work.
I'm pretty excited to get this review stuff started. I think it'll allow for... We have a lot of viewers on YouTube, so it'll allow for more of a fun experience there, as opposed to just a static image. So, what we're going to do is we're going to be taking anime, and this week we are going to be going over, like I said, Made in Abyss. Mm-hmm. It's a good litmus for us to fill out the style. And we will be giving it a rating of the top score... Animazing, and everything from that is Anna most definitely, Anna maybe, Anna meh, and Anna maybe not. And Brandon, do you want to tell them how we kind of break down the points for this, how we come up with those scores?
Yeah, sure, bud. So we basically, I mean, we got two different systems. One informs the other. So basically, it's a scale of 10 stars or so possible, wherein each of the following things has a possible 2 stars we can give it. Story and setting, 1 or 2, or we can do halves and stuff. Characters/development of said characters. We got art and animation. We got the soundtrack. And then the final quality is that je ne sais quoi, that special something. Roger, what does that mean?
I don't know what.
It's kind of our, as we were discussing beforehand, it's our good buddies wiggle room. It could be like, maybe there was something about this, maybe the animation wasn't so great on a show, or maybe the characters weren't so developed or something, or there was something we didn't like, but we couldn't stop watching. It was like, it just was captivating. And that's some room for us to throw in some
we
extra
didn't know what. We can't really explain, but it gives us...
Maybe it could go the other way, and everything was great, but there was something about that kind of bummed us out or bugged us.
Yeah.
We
Too many panty shots.
Yeah, that would be my main reason.
Yeah.
But based on those, we do then have the, as Roger already said, the different titles we would give it.
Yeah.
Is this show Animazing, or is it Anna meh?
Yeah. So it'll kind of give you an idea of what we thought about it, and then of course afterwards we will let you guys know, who we recommend the anime for, and our final thoughts on the series. And we're gonna try to do all of these reviews as spoiler free as possible.
Yeah, we'll give you like a little brief, here's what the show's about, but not go into too many details.
And if you have never tuned into the show before, typically this is a long, full-style podcast.
And a little short.
Now, if you're listening on iTunes or Google Play, any place like that, you will be getting the full podcast. So we're going to do a review first, and you'll get full podcast. Now, on YouTube... You'll be getting this, and a couple days later, this will be the anime review, and we will have an anime ramble out after that. So everything that happens in the podcast after the review, you will get all of our news, any questions that get sent in to us.
What have we been watching?
Yeah, what have we been watching? All the fun talking stuff that we used to do kind of at the beginning of the episode is now going to the end, and you'll have a whole ramble video for that, in which there will be a static image for that video as well. And that's just to make sure that everybody that wants to hear all the entire podcast, no matter where you listen, you will have a full opportunity of listening.
For sure. You want to get to this?
Yeah, man, let's get right into this. Made in Abyss.
It's pretty cool. Well, you want to start? Let's start with a little overview. So this whole thing takes place in the city of Orth and in the Abyss, which the city of Orth surrounds. So basically, this is...
Orth is a big island.
Orth is a big island in the... ocean of Baidusk, something like that, Baidusk, and it appears to be an island that looks like a big crater surrounding this massive hole that is roughly 1,000-meter diameter hole and it's at least 20,000 meters deep, and that is the titular Abyss.
Right.
So the show itself involves a young girl named Riko, who is one of these people. She's very young, we're talking preteen little baby girl. I think she's like 11 or 12 they say in episode 2 or 3, I think. Yeah. But she is very young. 12. Yeah. She's very, very young, and she is what's called a delver or cave raider, depending on whose translation you're watching. But basically these are people who go into the abyss and they find these artifacts, and there's a lot that, like, we've watched the whole thing in sub.
Right.
Currently the dub is still ongoing, and it's not bad. Yeah. But there's a lot that never gets really explained with this stuff. Like, there are things they find that, like, you know, where did all these artifacts come from? This thing was apparently discovered like almost 2,000 years ago, and they're still just finding stuff, and there's not a whole lot of explanation for how it got there.
And essentially, essentially what we would call an archaeology dig or whatever. Sure. They send the people out for that, and often they'll lift stones and they'll find skeletons in a prayer position,
and they're always in that same position. So what's that about?
Yep.
There's bits later where you see, like, you know, different structures and even vehicles and modes of transportation down there that, like, how did this get here? It's pretty wild stuff, and it's stuff that, you know, there is confirmed, of course, there's going to be another season of this, so maybe we'll get some answers, but it's pretty wild stuff. But the big kicker for this one is that, for one reason or another, we have Rico and we also have Reg, who is like our second main character. And without getting too spoilery, they're going down there to do stuff and find stuff.
Yeah.
The big kicker of this thing is that if you go down and then try to go back up, depending on how deep you went, you're going to have some sickness, possibly some bleeding, possibly some straight up death. So they call it the curse of the abyss, and that's really the crux of the show, is how dangerous this is. The show, we should point out, if you watch it on what is it, Funimation? Not Funimation, on High Dive or whatever, on Verve we watch it. It is for mature, despite being very cutesy. These are adorable little chibi characters.
It is deceptive.
Yes. I actually looked at a comment on the first episode, and someone was like, "Why is this rated mature?" You keep watching.
It gets there.
But it is not, I mean, it is very deceptively cute. It is not for the faint of heart, guys, and that's something we can get into later. But do you want to get into some specifics on the story and setting, characters development, that kind of stuff? Or?
Sure. Absolutely.
So what'd you think about story and setting, bud?
So the way the story is all laid out, and we like I said, we've watched this to completion.
In the dub. Sub.
In the sub.
Excuse me.
The dub, like Brandon said, is still coming out. And we kind of wanted to give some insight on... That's one thing that we didn't get to give insight on the full reviews, because there was no dub at the time. So we'll be able to talk a little bit on that dub. But as far as the story goes, it's very well paced.
The setting of it, I love.
Yeah, everything you see in there there's just so much attention to detail. Somebody really... It feels like the world was really cared about, and there was a ton of thought put into the show.
I think like one of the first things we said about it when we were talking about it, and like something I've seen a lot of folks online say as well, is that it feels like a video game. It feels like Final Fantasy. Right. Like there's so much, and the design of it, the way that it's all built and structured, it's really cool. The setting, just like this fairly, like there's obviously like some fairly advanced technology with these pulley systems and stuff, or these elevators and whatnot that go up and down this thing, but it's also like kind of this old world feel to it, like, you know, maybe steam engine kind of stuff. Nobody's walking around with a cell phone is what I'm saying. But yeah, it's really fascinating the way they put it together. So yeah, I'm really into it, man. You got anything else to say about that?
Just, yeah. Well, I mean, even things with like, the way they've thought out as you go, once they enter into the abyss, you know, the different things that happen to you.
Oh yeah. There's also talking about the setting, like the abyss itself as they're going in.
It's a whole new world. Like,
yeah. And it's not only that, it's leveled. There's different tiers to it that each one is so level, different.
Yeah. Looks, vastly different than the other.
Yeah, it really feels like you're progressing through, like, I mean, I'm going to keep saying video game, but that's what it feels like.
Right. And I guess the thing, the curse of the abyss, the different things that happen to you don't happen to you as you go down.
No, only as you try
to return from the abyss.
Yeah, that's when you get messed up.
Yeah.
And you get real messed up.
Yep. I'll let you guys, you know, y'all get to figure out all of those for yourself. I don't want to spoil any of that for you, but I mean, just know that like the abyss is its own foreboding entity. It is crazy.
Yes.
And that's another like piece of the setting that it's just that, that's where you're going to tell that most of our story is going to happen.
The Abyss is like, at a certain point, becomes its own character.
But it is really impressive with all of the other stuff, the slums and the orphanage and everything around the island and how it works. They give you tons and tons of details on that before you even get to where your main setting is going to be.
It's a fascinating program.
Yes, it is excellently executed, and I can't say enough good things about it.
Very well designed. How about the characters and development of said characters?
Now, the characters they're great. It's just like the setting. There's a whole lot of thought that went in, even to the very minor characters. They feel like individuals.
My boy Shiggy.
Yeah, it's hard to forget a lot of them, but your main characters, Rico and Reg, they're extremely well put together as well.
Very much so.
The Reg has a sense of amnesia about him. There's a sense of forgetfulness.
Yeah.
And they execute that very well. And he maintains until the event happens where they're going down to the abyss. He maintains, almost an entire different life than what he probably has lived before. And
I didn't mention that in the setup, but yeah, that's one thing they tell you, like in the very beginning when they meet Reg, is that he is not straight up human. He appears to be some kind of robot or something, possibly one of these relics from the abyss. Correct. Obviously, he would be the most advanced one probably that anyone's found. But yeah, that's where he appears to have come from, and he comes up here and he shows up. And Rico finds him passed out, and she's just like, what the heck? They managed to wake him up, and he doesn't know anything, who he is, why he came up here, if he is from the abyss, etc., etc.
Right.
It's fascinating stuff, and that's a lot of the mystery of the show is from that. And like just the way they develop these characters, the way they design them. Rico is kind of like a typical like go-getter. She's a tough cookie, wants to go down there and stuff.
And she's like spliced with like almost the mad scientist.
Yeah, she's a little, no kidding. like there's a bit fairly early on where she talks about like trying to figure out what's up with Reg, and
they're doing she's doing a very thorough study of him.
Yeah, no kidding. Talks about how his skin, while fairly smooth and rubbery, is very strong and resistant even to drills and fire. And Reg is like, drills and fire? What? Like,
yeah, there's an incident with a stick.
Oh God,
it is a
ruler,
also,
I think.
Yeah, also, and just the ridiculous. There's some ridiculous stuff put in this too.
Yeah.
And I can see an argument being made for it being unnecessary, but I can also see an argument for it adding a little humor in, particularly in the like this show has a fascination with Reg's penis.
Yeah, the fact that he has one, first of all, because he is a robot. Like, there's even a bit, like, the first person to mention it is Reg. Yeah. There's a bit where he just woke up and he's like looking at himself. He looks down. Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But, and you get your side characters. You get Shiggy and all the kids in the orphanage. You got Leader.
Nat was, like Rico's best buddy.
Mm-hmm. And all those characters are really well done, too. They all feel like individuals. They're all, they all look different from each other. Mm-hmm. That's a thing, and I guess we can talk about this a little bit in the animation part, but they all look unique.
Now, there is, like, a classic animation thing that was, like, a good way to tell character design is, can you tell the characters apart just from their silhouette? And for most of them, I would say yes, but there's a few. The fact that like most of the kids do have a similar like giant head, tiny body design. They look like little chibis.
Sure,
it gets a little.
That makes sense, and I can see that, and I kind of disregard it for this.
Yeah,
because they do a lot of stuff, and I mentioned this in the larger breakdown. They do a lot of stuff with color in this anime.
Oh my god, it's beautiful. Yes. We're talking about art and animation now.
Yeah, we'll move right into art and animation. All the characters and everything. I can't say just the characters. Everything is expertly done and colored. It is beautiful to look at. I often describe it as it's very Ghibli-esque.
Mm-hmm.
This feels like it could be a Studio Ghibli movie.
Absolutely.
Now, it might not have the budget that one of those movies has, but you feel it in there.
For sure.
It exudes that style.
In that first episode, it goes. There's no opening. It goes straight into it, and then like there's a bit when pretty early on, like 5 minutes in maybe, where Rico finds Reg and whatnot, and the credits start playing like over the show. It does feel like an actual. It's very cinematic. It feels like a movie, and the actual there's a bit at the end of that first episode where they're just looking out upon this island city with this giant hole just going straight through the middle of it, and the sun's rising. That is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. It's absolutely glorious. The show is really pretty, and the animation is very smooth. And yeah, I'm feeling it, man. It's good stuff. But yeah, it is. You're absolutely right about the color design and just everything about, even their little, like, their outfits they wear are so well designed with, like, they look like Rico and Nat. It starts with them going on a dig, and they look like little safari people. Like, they got giant backpacks that are as big as them, and these little, you know, the pith helmets and whatnot. They're just adorable, the whole show, and it's so pretty.
Yeah.
It's just so pretty.
It's really, really, really nice to look at. I can think of very few things that I've watched that have like this level of detail. Just any given way that they can chalk detail into the show, they do. It is loaded with it. I can't say enough good things about how good this show looks.
It is very pretty.
It is really pretty to look at.
And particularly these different areas that they end up in as they go through the abyss. They are. Oh,
the life forms they encounter.
Fascinating to watch. Yeah. Like, the different, like, beasties and monsters and stuff that they run into. I mean, I'm going to keep saying video game. It feels like a freaking video game.
It really does.
So cool.
It does.
It's just so cool. How about that soundtrack, bro?
That soundtrack is amazing. Now, the guy that worked on a lot of this...
Kevin Pinkin.
Yeah, Kevin Pinkin is his name. And really in the first episode, I didn't notice this. I had to go back. I went from High Dive on Verve all the way back to Amazon, where I originally watched Made in Abyss, to make sure that this wasn't something that I just glossed over. The very first song that you really hear whenever that they kind of go out and start looking at things, Rico first finds Reg. The song is called Underground River, and it's all the lyrics are English.
Yeah,
and I did not notice it. Yeah, I didn't notice
so
that before.
Pretty. That song's rad. That is one of the two big songs from the thing, Underground River, and the other one being also played in that first episode later on, I believe, called Hanazeve Karadina or something. Might be pronouncing that wrong, and it's totally cool if I am, because it is in fact a made up language that they're singing in. We talked about that in our longer review, but yeah, it's the music is really great. Like it has the perfect, like, they bring in like the guitars and the drums when action's going down, and when it's like more chill, you have these these ballads and these sweeping melodies that it's just good. It's just good stuff.
And Kevin Pinkin, he was inspired by his music style is inspired by video games. It's from he was inspired particularly from a track that came from Metroid Prime.
Nice.
And the
my boys got taste.
Pendrana Drifts.
Kids got taste.
Yeah, and the music doesn't feel like it's a backdrop.
No,
when they kick that music up, it is in the foreground. It's not just some loop. It's not just something that you passively miss. It sinks into you. It's way well produced.
Yes, it's very good. It's very beautiful. I'm gonna keep saying I'm into it, but I'm very into it. The show's kind of amazing.
If you watch the longer haul of this whole review,
you get to hear us really geek out over it.
But the music, even the background music that is supposed to just fade in, is all really put together, and it
is available on Spotify, and you'd know I've been listening to it.
It fits every single setting that it's in. There's nothing that feels out of place.
Yeah. It's I mean, my dude is inspired by video games, and he essentially made like a really good video game soundtrack, because not unlike when I listen, sometimes I'll put on, like, you know, just the soundtrack from, like, you know, Final Fantasy 7 or 9 or something, those games I love, and each track I'm like, oh, this is when that thing happened, oh, this is when that moment was, and we had that big fight, or when I was running from this thing. You can get that same feeling listening to this soundtrack for this show, man. It's uncanny, man. It's really great.
I go back to like the Silent Hill soundtrack a lot.
Yeah.
Akira Yamaoka and stuff like that. And that's what, like, you know, those
like
games.
A Zelda?
Those games are really memorable to me, probably largely because of how much I love that music that was in those games. You know, not to take away from them being excellent games. Right. Silent Hill and 2 and 3 are two of my favorite games, but that music with it...
Yeah, it really bumps it from, like, a great game to an extraordinary something.
Right.
And that's what the music does here.
It
freaking nailed it, man.
It takes it up another level.
Absolutely nailed it. You want to talk about some je ne sais quoi?
Yeah. The extra stuff that we'd... I just...
For me, if I have one gripe about this, it is how... Because they don't really... There's like one or two moments when you can argue that, like we said, like this stuff is unnecessary or whatever.
Right.
Maybe they were trying to add a bit of humor. There are bits that are like, it feels kind of weird.
Yeah.
Specifically, like one of the... You see this happen. You don't see anything, of course. But like, for example, in the orphanage where Rico lives...
and apparently in the manga, this is... a lot more explicit.
Yeah, the main
the
method
anime
of,
they tactfully cover it up.
Yeah,
the
main method of punishment if you do something wrong is, rather than like hurting you physically, it's a humiliation thing, and they just literally string you up naked, hanging from a rope from the ceiling. So like, haha, how embarrassing, which is pretty messed up.
Yeah,
and kind of weird that you see that happen.
And there are times in there where it does. I won't say it entirely feels like they're trying to sexualize the characters, or like Rico in particular.
Yeah.
But I could see the argument being made and somebody trying to validate it.
It feels... There are bits that feel weird. I
don't particularly feel that way myself.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, it could be just chalked up to adding a sense of realism to the characters.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the one moment I can remember in particular... that I won't really say any details on because it's pretty far toward the end of this series. But there's a bit where it is just Rico and Reg, and it does feel very intimate in a way that is, again, not explicitly sexual, but definitely an intimate moment between these characters that feels like kind of weird, but it's mostly just because they're so young and you're watching it.
Really, like, that's what it... You know,
the thing is, if you
tacked a few more years onto them, it probably wouldn't be as
well, I mean,
weird.
even then, it's not... I don't think you even have to tack the years, because the thing is, you got to realize that it's in that moment, it's just them. So that's a completely different thing.
Right.
Like, it's just them. So, and they don't... I don't know. It's hard to explain, but there are bits that, it made me feel kind of, I don't know about this.
Yeah. I guess I'm a little more leathery whenever it comes over to, you know, to stuff like that. But I don't have my eyes closed or anything. Like I can see, like I said, somebody could make the argument and I could understand it.
Yeah.
Whether or not I feel that way, or I want to, you know, say that, these characters are definitely sexualized, or they're put into these intimate settings that are completely unnecessary. I feel like the show wastes very little momentum.
Yeah. No, it's mostly just like the main crux and the main portion of the show is just them dealing with these, you know, this horrible shit they're having to go through as they go deeper and deeper into this hole.
And that's kind of like as it gets worse, you know, and like we said, it starts getting pretty heavy. It's their bond, you know, all those intimate moments that built in that really, really drive the spike deep and make you feel for these characters.
Sure, yeah.
I think it all kind of adds to it. And like I said, the manga does explicitly show more, to where I can definitely say
I'm not reading that.
Yeah, people would certainly can make the argument there. In this anime, not so much, because I think it's pretty tactfully done.
Sure. Everything
is covered. You know, they have your main points, but you know, what you see is nothing outside of really, you know, mostly innocent. I would say, you know, this would be TV PG stuff.
Sure.
You need parental guidance. Now, but what happens later on in the show, that's just talking about those scenes in particular. What happens in the show, no, I absolutely would not say this is TV PG.
Oh no, there is definitely, oh boy. Like that's the thing, is like, it's one thing to look at these characters and argue whether or not they're being sexualized. There are other moments that get gruesome.
Yeah.
And there is no other way to describe it.
Yep.
Horrifyingly so.
And that might be, to some, that might be more disturbing than the brief scenes of intimacy with.
Yeah, let's not like, no spoilers, but they earn that mature tag with a level of gore that is not that oh man, these are children and they gon' get hurt.
Yeah.
Moreover, there's even the psychological and emotional bits of it. There's a straight up mercy killing without giving too much away.
Yeah.
Like, it gets rough.
Yeah. It gets heavy.
It gets very heavy. And that's one thing you got to be prepared for. So if we're going to like who should avoid this or who should watch this, I feel like it's a thing that I would recommend this to damn near anybody.
Yeah.
But boy, oh boy, if you can't handle watching some very cutesy kids get very badly hurt, you're gonna want to avoid this.
I would put this at teen plus.
Yeah, to the point that, again, I said this before when we were doing our like more in depth several episodes run of it. My good buddy Allie sent me a message on Facebook saying, "Hey, have you got to this episode yet?" And I said, "No." And she says, "Well, just be ready. And if you need to talk about it, hit me up." And she was not wrong. It was heavy.
Yeah.
Really heavy stuff.
I think,
shout out to my good buddy Allie.
The whole spin on it, or whatever, the good buddy wiggle room, if you will, the je ne sais quoi.
I'd probably dock a point.
I don't think I would dock any points at all.
I'm gonna dock one just because.
Dock 1 point? Okay, that's fine.
Because there were some bits that made me like,
And like I said, I think this will be a reoccurring theme a bit too, because I am a bit more insensitive. I don't know if that's the right word that I want to use or not.
I'm so desensitized.
Yeah, desensitized is good.
It's gotta be absolutely raunchy.
I've watched a lot of them booby animes. I've seen plenty.
Oh no, Roger, no.
And this didn't. I just felt like everything done was built in a manner that was to make the other scenes more impactful, and I can't fault anything for that. As a matter of fact, I will. I'm going to give it the plus 2 points because that's how much. I am willing to say that this is my favorite anime of this entire year.
Well, it came out last year.
Last year, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
and it was a lot of that I've watched this year.
It was a lot of people's favorites of the favorite of the past year. It topped a lot of lists, and yeah. So let's go down the list, bud. What do you give it on story and setting?
On story and setting,
how many stars?
2.
All right. I also gave it 2 stars. Character development,
2.
I also gave it 2. Art and animation,
2.
I gave it 2 as well. Soundtrack,
2.
Also 2, and je ne sais quoi, the wiggle room,
2.
I gave it 1.
I'm giving it I thought this anime was damn near perfect.
I dock a point.
It really built me into wanting to see what comes later. It has made the wait for it, like painfully long.
Yeah.
Wanting to know and like avoiding spoilers because I don't want anybody to tell me what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I don't
definitely don't check that wiki page.
Yeah.
I got one spoiler and I was like, no. And there you go.
I do not want to get any more of this until I can watch it and really bring in the medium that I prefer, that I saw this in, that I really enjoy it in.
So let me ask you, Roger, I gotta know. What do you call this one?
On a scale of
let's break it down from the bottom to the top. What would you call it if it was terrible?
If it were terrible, I would say maybe not.
It's maybe not terrible. Maybe it's not awful.
That'd be a solid anime.
I mean, maybe it's perfectly average. You say it's right in the middle. I would say
that's an anime.
Well, if it's like above average, it's pretty good actually. It's quite well.
An animos definitely.
But if it was perfect,
if it was that 2-star for every single point,
which this one was,
did give it, yes, it is animazing. This anime is animazing in my opinion.
I would have to also call it animazing. Despite my dock of 1 point, it's a 9 out of 10 for me personally. That's an average of 9.5 out of 10 between your good buddies, and I think that is pretty good.
I quite enjoyed it, and I would recommend it to anybody that is a teen or older. And if you're a fan of the Studio Ghibli movies and stuff like that, the Miyazaki movies, you will probably really like this as well.
It's very well done.
It's a very good adventure story. It's a very good, in some senses, it's. These kids are growing up. Riko's growing up, but she's not grown enough to where she can't make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And it just has just everything, dude. That world is so amazing. It's something you feel like you really invest your feelings into this world as well, and you really want to spend that time to learn that lore and seek in every little detail that they give.
Yeah, man, it's good stuff.
So if you're into doing things like that, if you're into like a heavy lore story and very beautiful animation and really good characters, you're gonna like this.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more. I think it's yeah, for sure the best thing I remember watching in recent memory, and yeah, it's hard to I can't say enough good about it. It's just very, very good. And if you haven't seen it, check it out. Mm-hmm. If you can deal with those things we said.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that is it for our very first episode of the Good Buddies Anime Review. We hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you were watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. Mm-hmm. If you're listening on iTunes or anywhere else, leave us a review and leave us, the max stars, however many they give. Mm-hmm. And stick around if you're listening on the audio podcast on iTunes or something. We're about to go into the ramble. If you're on YouTube, stay tuned for a couple of days. Subscribe to the channel, like I said, and we will be back on with the rest of the show. So be sure to leave your thoughts and everything in the comments below as well. We definitely want to know what you thought about this anime too.
Yeah.
And if you have any points to point out on the the sexualization or
lack thereof.
Yeah, lack thereof. Throw it all out there. We want to hear all of it. But see you guys later.